Morning. Okay, good morning. Good morning. Welcome everybody to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. We're glad to have you on. I see you out there, Karen. Hey, hey. Welcome, welcome. So everybody who is watching with us this morning, if you catch this live broadcast and you want to join in on the conversation, we are live over on our blog, and you can scroll down to the bottom, add comments, and it is at SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. Again, that's SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. That's all one word. And anytime you want to find us, that's where you go, SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. Okay, so anyway, today what we're going to be talking about is what it takes to be a good person, and we are studying the book Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao by Wayne Dyer. And we are on chapter 19, which talks about verse 19 of the Tao Te Ching. But before we get started, I want to give everyone a chance to get over to our blog page, and while you guys are doing that, I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. And did I forget to say who I am? I can't remember. Okay, I'm Samantha Studebaker-Carl. I'm your host and the founder of Mindset Mastery Collective, and so I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. And then for those of you who are watching, say hey down there in the comments. Let us know you're out there, and as we go along, be sure and jump in and add your thoughts. Okay, jump out, guys.
I think I'm first. Hey y'all, I'm Christina Irvin, and live in Northeast Tennessee, and I'm looking forward to today's discussion. Good to see you.
Good morning, it's Catherine Clement here in Boulder, Colorado, and excited to talk about this verse today. Thanks for coming.
Good morning, Sandy Root here in sunny Miami Beach, Florida, and yep, as always, looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, great to see you guys on this. Jason Roberts from St. Pete, Florida, and also happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion. Want to remind everybody to again go over to the Saturday Morning Mastermind Collective, or it's called the Mastermind Collective, Mindset Mastery Collective, excuse me, .com, and you will see a pop-up box to sign in, so we can send you notices. Fill that out if you can. And also want to let you know that if you do want to comment on the page or comment on this discussion live, just scroll all the way down to the bottom of the post and you'll see a box to do that. So with that, let's get this going. How you doing today, Samantha?
Thanks, Jason. That's awesome. I appreciate that. Oh, my husband just started up the truck. I don't know if you can hear that in the background or not, but we have the door open. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so let's start with reading this verse. Who wants to jump out and read it?
I can.
Okay.
It's my favorite number, 19, so I'm happy to read it. Okay, 19th verse. Give up sainthood, renounce wisdom, and it will be 100 times better for everyone. Throw away morality and justice, and people will do the right thing. Throw away industry and profit, and there will be no thieves. All of these are outward forms alone. They are not sufficient in themselves. It is more important to see the simplicity, to realize one's true nature, to cast off selfishness and tempered desire.
Thank you, Sandy. So what does it take to be a good person? I think that we all have probably different ideas of what that means, and of course the Tao Te Ching is kind of telling us something a little bit different than what we've probably been taught. It seems to be telling us that the guidelines that we've been following may not be all that great. They may even be holding us back from our true potential. It says, give up sainthood, renounce wisdom, and it will be 100 times better for everyone. What? What is that? What is it telling us? What do you guys think?
I think it's saying get out of your ego. That's what I think. Just, real plainly and easily. Um, One thing that I've noticed as I get older is the more that you know, the more you realize you don't know, sort of thing. So I can totally agree with this, because if you think you know everything, you're going to miss out on a lot going on, because I can tell you there's a lot everybody doesn't know.
Yeah, there was one part that I really liked. I'll read it. About advice. Wayne Dyer saying this verse advises you to alter your concept of being saintly just because you follow the teachings of an organized religion, and to change your view of self-importance because of degrees you've received from an educational institution. So I thought that was really important, because that is all ego. When you think you're saintly just because you go to, whatever your church or whatever you go to for your religion or whatever you practice, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily saintly. And if you go get a degree, it doesn't make you more important. But sometimes people think those things do, and that, like Catherine said, that's all ego-based. So when you drop those ideas of this is why I'm saintly or this is why I'm important, and just be without the ego and the attachment to those things, then you can be saintly and self-important without all those things that we think make us important. So that's it for now.
For me, I think it was just bottom line: you are not what you do, and certainly we understand that whole notion of not being saintly. You can look at the world and all the craziness that's going in the world and all the horrible actions that people do against other people, and recognize that that's not the case. And they do it in the name of the Lord a lot of times, and all the hate that's going on. And Lord, it's crazy. And then, with all the notion that because you took an action to go to school and get a degree, that means that you are so smart or something like that. It's just ludicrous. I think one of the things that makes me proud about myself is the fact that people find comfort in talking with me or whatever, and they don't even, most of the time, people don't realize how many degrees I actually do have, which, by the way, is just ridiculous. Student loan debt, I tell you. But I think the commitment that people have, and what we are raised to think that the thing that we do, going to school and becoming a doctor makes me this, and if I'm an attorney, I'm that. The thing that we do becomes our identity, rather than having a clear understanding of our core selves, is kind of a sad testament, really.
Wow, we are just scratching the surface with this, but I'm already lost. You guys are have so many good points. Yeah, I agree with all of you. I think that this is one of the things about this is to make this work. I think what they're saying is everybody has to follow this to understand this and to incorporate it into their lives. So, I think when at first, for me at least, when I read it, I was a little like, well, how would this work actually? It doesn't really seem like it would be. It doesn't really seem like if you take away industry and profit, there would be no thieves. There'd still be people who have the desire to take something without the consideration for others, and that would be a definition of a thief. But and so each person is at a different level in their life, and we have to just kind of, that's life. We live it, and we understand that not everybody is on the same page as us. But I think with this verse is what they're saying is this is, if you take this as more of guidelines for ourselves and our own person to have a better understanding, for us, our own selves within ourselves, so that we know, so that we can understand the difference between what's without rather than what's within, like what you guys are saying about the ego, and how much of that, how much of what we believe in ourselves is based on either the actions we take, or the labels or titles or accolades that we've accomplished, and how much is it based on that rather than based on from within our source, as I think Wayne Dyer was talking about. Just a little different perspective, because there's so many ways to look at it. But I just think that maybe, if you think of this in regards to the last verse as well, it's sort of like he's giving us a way to find our source, or a way to define our source better, and become more aware of what's within and separate it from what's without. Does that make sense? What do you guys think?
It just came to me too that it's like when we really are in our true nature, we know everything inside of us. We know what's ethical. We know what's right. We know what's saintly. When we really tap into ourselves, when we're caught up in the outside world and the labels and all this stuff, then it starts to get we start to lose that truth, and we might get thrown off into other things that aren't completely ethical or saintly, or whatever the words we're using. So I guess that's like the Tao. The Tao is going back to your source, your true nature, your inner nature, and when you're really in tune with that, then you don't need these external things to make you important, or to make you know how to be ethical, or know how to be good or moral. You're just that when you are connected to yourself and to the source. So.
I also think that it's interesting that, like, what is your intention? What is your core? Are you looking for the validation externally? I mean, if I go to school to get a degree so that I become a professional, that I can help someone and serve other people, that's one thing. But if I'm going because, like, I want to stay home and I want to make beautiful things, beautiful pottery or something, but I don't do it because, well, then people will think that I haven't accomplished anything in the world. Like, measuring your accomplishments by external validation versus truly what is your core intention. It goes back again for me to looking for something to add to that id and that ego. So I don't know. I think you have to, in order for us to grow in this area of the Tao, we literally have to grow at our core and understand our true personal worth.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason posed an interesting question when he wrote this blog post for us this week. He talked about, are people inherently good or evil? And he says, it is said that we are judged by our actions, so it is that we pass judgment on others as well as ourselves. And how do you judge yourself on your accomplishments and goals that you have or have not achieved? And and I think that kind of brings up the point right there of, how are we looking at ourselves? Are we looking at, our accomplishments based on what we think everyone else thinks that we should do? Or are we looking to our own selves and going, okay, what is right for me in my existence in this world, and whether or not you feel like you are in alignment with that? Because, one thing I noticed when I was in elementary and middle and high school and whatnot, I went to a Christian school, and we had all these guidelines that we were supposed to follow, and and we should be giving, and they talked a lot about being missionaries and going and volunteering at the homeless shelters and things like that. And and that's all fine and great if that's where you feel like that you are guided. But every time that I would go and do something like that, I felt like I was just not in my own comfort zone. It wasn't right for me. It felt uncomfortable. It felt like, I'm not enjoying this. I don't really feel like I'm making a difference. It wasn't right for me. But yet, because I did it, I would get extra points on whatever in my Bible class, and they'd be like all happy for me and telling me I was doing great and everything, and I'm feeling like miserable because of it, you know. And so, but then when I got out of school and I started working with animals, you know, that felt right for me. It felt like I was following my passion. It felt like I was following what I was guided internally to do. Now, everybody else would have been looking at me at the time going, you're not really doing anything. All you're doing is cutting dog hair. What's wrong with you? You know? But it's, you know, it felt right for me, and I think that's what it's kind of about, is kind of tuning into what our own true kind of purpose is, our own true inner guidelines, or inner guide, and then putting that out into the world. Because, and I think that's what it means by the it'll be 100 times better for everyone. Because if you're trying to force yourself in doing something just because you think that's what you're supposed to do, then you're not going to be giving it 100%, are you? You're just going to be going through the motions and being all blah, 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 you know. It's like we go to, I don't know, you go to McDonald's or whatever, and you get service there, and it's crappy because everybody there is hating themselves for being there, except for the couple people who really enjoy it, right? And those people, it's amazing to go and visit with them. But but the people who are miserable, they're just like forcing themselves to do these things that they absolutely hate. And that is ruining it for everybody. But then if those people were to follow what actually felt good to them, then whatever it is that they would be doing would be more beneficial to everyone. You know, I mean, I was watching a, what was one of those shows? It was, I can't remember what it was called. Basically, it was like Undercover Boss. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. And the guy, it's like the CEO or president of the company or whatever goes and you know, just dresses like a normal person in the company, and then goes and works as like a new employee just to see what it's like at the ground level in the business. And in this one episode, they were talking. It was a trash company. And so he rode around in a trash truck with one of his employees, and this woman was like the most amazing woman. She was like always full of sunshine and having a great time and enjoying her job and saying hi to all the people when she was going through the neighborhoods picking up trash, and she just loved what she was doing, you know. And it seems like a crazy thing because it's trash collecting, right? But she enjoyed her job, and she made just everybody that she came into contact with throughout her route, she made their days better. And I thought, you know, that's how we all should be. You know, and I think that we all have a place in the world, and it's not determined by what everybody else thinks. It's based on what comes from inside of us, and we get to be the best that we can possibly be in that whatever it is, and then we all make the world a better place, versus it being us making each other miserable because we're trying to force ourselves to do something that we hate. I don't know. That's my thoughts on it.
I agree with you totally on that. Of course, now McDonald's are going robotic, so we won't have to worry about going into McDonald's and finding people that don't want to work there anymore. I wonder, you know, when I first heard that, I thought, that's horrible. That's going to take away, like, you know, there's just certain jobs that you get as a teenager coming up through high school or whatever, and or when I dropped out of high school, I went to those jobs, and those jobs are going to be gone. So, but maybe that will force people to do something that they like better. You know, who knows why some of these things happen, but I think this is a great verse for business owners, especially new people coming into online business, or especially network marketing type businesses, because usually there's a very strong, there are a lot of strong egos and personalities that walk across the stage, you know, and people coming in, they tend to compare themselves with those people, you know, not realizing that it took them years to get where they're at, you know, and thousands of dollars of courses and studies and self-talk and mindset work, and new people coming in, they just see, oh, this person's making $10,000 a week, and they don't see all the work that went behind it. Also, because they want to make that $10,000 a week, people tend to emulate those personalities and sometimes take on completely new personas from who they actually are. And so this is a good lesson to remember, don't do that. Be yourself, because people follow people. And even though that's sort of like, I sort of understand the fake it till you make it thing. There's in everything that we do, and it could just be selling a larger package or something. There's a first time for everything, So when you're at that point where you're just like, oh, I'm too scared, I don't think I can do this, it's too far out of my comfort zone or whatever, remember all those people that you look up to were exactly where you're at. There was a first time for them too, and they had the courage to step out there. But like you said, just because you have certain degrees or titles or whatever doesn't necessarily make you, the best thing since cinnamon toast either. It just, sometimes people get those strong egos and it's a real turnoff. And some of that plays into the personality colors that I mention a lot. There's definitely certain personalities that are comfortable on the stage and more, expressive, and they want to be up there. But if new people come in and you're trying to emulate those really strong personalities, it's just going to come off really fake. We're energetic and we can feel when people are being genuine or not. And so it's just going to come off as fake. And I know I have done the same thing. Like, I'm not preaching at anybody. I've done the same thing. And so when you do get in a company, if you're being successful and you start getting all the accolades, that's a good time to really check yourself a little bit and say, okay, yeah, I'm getting some accolades, but I'm still the 9th grade high school dropout. You know what I mean? Not to like put yourself down, but just remember where you came from, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because if you can stay there and speak from your heart, people will really relate to you and follow you. I'll hush now.
That's great. I really resonate with that. That's thanks for bringing the conversation to the home business, discussion, because I think a lot of people on here might be into that. And I like what you said about fake it till you make it. It's not necessarily the best way to look at it. It should come from within. My suggestion, if there is anybody that you want to emulate, and you don't want to look fake like that, you might want to simply ask them what books they read, what do they do, because most likely if they're successful, there's something they do to train their mindset. And then if you read the books that they read, listen to audios that they read or listen to, then eventually it's going to come from within. You're going to have the understanding. And I think you can change your heart. You want things to come from your heart. And if things aren't coming from your heart the way that you'd like them to, or it's being misinterpreted by others, that's okay. You can change the way that you're interpreted. You can actually start to emulate the person you want to be like. But you have to do it from within, I think, like you're saying, Catherine. So that's really great. I'll go ahead and let you guys speak for a moment. I've got a few other ideas, but go ahead and maybe you guys want to expound upon that, what Catherine said.
Well, I like what you said, Jason, about if you see somebody that is where you want to be and you want to emulate what they're doing, and by reading the things that they read and listen to the things that they listen to, I think that's really powerful, because then then you actually have a better chance of being more authentic in who you're going to become as well, and not trying so much to just be exactly like them, but allowing that change to come from within and allow it to be whatever it is, because you never know. You may see that other person and think that's where you want to be, but then when you start to do the studying and you start to read the books and everything, you may discover a completely different path that you go on that makes you get to a point where you become great in, I don't know, great as far as, I don't want to say just becoming great or being successful, because I think that anytime that we're taking action and being authentic with ourselves, we are being successful in the now, which I think is the most important. But say if you want to attain a goal of some sort, a certain income level or something along that lines, is that you may find a better path to there, one that is actually easier for you and flows through you versus you feeling like you are forcing it. When you study the books and you participate in masterminds like what we have going on, and you listen to audios and you watch inspirational videos, is it comes from within, and then you end up becoming much more amazing, like it was saying, 100-fold better, just because you followed your own inner guidance to get to whatever it is that you're going to, because you never know. There may be something so much more grand out there and available to you when you follow your inner guidance than what it would be if you tried to force yourself into this little box of someone else. So I like what you said there, Jason. Thank you.
I don't know. I think I've been sitting here thinking like what everybody's saying. They're making really good. You're all making really good points, and I'm popping out like all these different thoughts. And you know, I go back to that chaos committee a lot, but it's like I was thinking about the home business, particularly the network marketing industry, and I think I sort of have a different take. If there are things like, I absolutely love the industry. However, the things that I hate about the industry are a lot of the things that you were mentioning, Catherine. Leaders, leaders, the industry, the companies themselves, the model of training literally is taught and set up in such a way to prey upon the internal chaos committee that everyone has and the insecurities that everyone has, because you're told if you don't do this, then you don't really want it. If you're not willing to go be humiliated every day and stand in the middle of the mall and be told no 1,000 times a day, that you don't really want it, and you don't really, I mean, and for someone who comes into the industry who's already has low self-esteem and whose value system does come from external accomplishment and who does not feel self-worth, quite honestly, that just feeds it. And it feeds it off of trying to motivate you by deploying doubt, guilt, shame, and worry. And I find that to be like preying on people, and that's an ugly part of the industry that I absolutely hate. That said, I've done a lot of work to understand, because look, I've succumbed to it too in the past, no doubt. But if you have a strong sense of worth that you can only get when you do some serious work on yourself, getting to the root of those things that make you feel inferior, that make you feel unloved, that hurt you from a childhood that you didn't even recognize, that makes you forget about years of your life that were just so painful, and come to a different understanding. And the only way we're going to get better is if we do the work on ourselves, and then we live that that person who understands their self-worth, and start to affect our communities in our countries. Like, until then, our world's going to continue to be screwed up. And if you don't have that sense of grounding and understanding of literally, I mean, it's really that simple, your worth, then understanding your relationship to your environment. Is my house big? Is it clean? Do I drive a nice ride? Am I rolling in a nice new clothes? I mean all of these things, there are things, but that's what we are taught to judge and measure our successes and our personal worth by. I think until you get to that personal truth, like literally, this discussion will still fall on deaf ear.
No, oh, I so agree with you, Christina. And you hit the nail on the head for this whole chapter right there. That's what this is all about. I believe, is to recognize how, like the MLM industry, or God forbid, the church, or our government, or our, the police, everybody who makes up the rules is basically feeding on people's fears of not being good enough or not doing the right thing or whatever it is, whether it's your parents, it could be the school system. It all goes along that lines, and I think that's what this chapter is trying to help us to recognize, is to see all of the laws and guidelines and the allocates, all of those different things, as that's all they are. It's just a word, and we need to recognize that for what it is, and then we need to really look within to seek the guidance from within, versus worrying so much about what everybody else thinks, what everybody else says, that if you don't do this, you don't measure up, or if you're not that, you're not a good person, or whatever, and that we have to decide for ourselves what's right for us. It's like questioning everything. I mean, just because they say, you have to do these things, like in the MLM industry, you have to make all these phone calls. Well, I don't believe that. I don't believe it at all. I mean, there's other ways to get it done, and if you can find the way that works the best for you, then that's the best way for it to work, right? And I feel like it's that way with everything in our lives. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, I feel like that's what it's trying to tell us here, is just to wake up to all this baloney we've been fed, and start digging within ourselves to find the truth.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was just skimming through the chapter a little bit, and found one little blip here that's sort of along the same lines of, the world of institutional pressures is built on an endless list of human-made do's and don'ts. Lao Tzu advocates that you discover your heart's true desire, all the while remembering that no one else can tell you what it is. And yeah, I mean, it sort of reminds me when I was a kid going to school, it was almost like certain things were pushed on me, like, oh, you should do this, or you should do this, as, when in my mind, a lot of times I had a different idea of what I would want my career to be, or what that was. But then there were always these ideas of, well, that's not a good career, or, you can't make money with that. But it was like, that was what was in my heart. And then there's, society says, well, no, that's wrong. I mean, it's all the stuff that we've all been saying the whole time we've been on here, that really, yeah, it is about following our heart. And I agree.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we grow up thinking or being taught that, happiness is a certain, stereotype or a certain thing, or if you don't have a certain type of job, you don't have the things, that you won't be able to afford the things that will make you happy or whatever. But really, happiness can be found within ourselves, and some of the greatest happiness can be found from just learning and understanding ourselves, and um, getting creative, using our creative mind. If you like to write music, or if you like to paint or create pottery, or ceramics, or like Christina would say, something like that can give you just as much fulfillment and enjoyment and happiness as having as much money as you need to do what to do extra things, or because it's just because it's coming from our source. I think is like what you're saying. So Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted to just address real quick the cons of network marketing, as I just sort of compacted that in so I could understand what Christina was saying. And I totally agree too. You know, with it's not right for people to feed on people's fears or shame people into buying anything, or you know, um, so it really is important if you're in the network marketing industry to network on a level of finding out, you know, where your source can come from, where your mindset can become a leadership type mindset, and really, you know, be with a company that can help you move to that next level as quickly as possible, rather than just preying on your fears and feeding you, you know, oh, just enough to get you to buy the next thing, but then raising the bar so you have to buy another thing and another thing, you know, but actually helping you to grow from within. Because a lot of us, you know, we're not, I mean, hardly any of us are ever born with an entrepreneurial mindset, because that's not a natural mindset. That's of the world that's without. That's of industry and business and all that. And there's nothing wrong with it in its, you know, basic self. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just how we perceive it and what we understand of it. You know, can we speak the language of it? Do we know enough of it to really make a decision about it? You know, are we developing the skills and the mindset that will help us to grow and help our source or our heart grow? Because if it's something that you want, if it's something you want to do or be a part of, then I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And you can use that to step that out of your comfort zone and grow. It doesn't mean that that might be the only thing you ever do with your life. You might take those skills and move on and do something else with it. So I think everything is a part of this journey that has been, you know, we're all part of this journey, and we're where we are because of, you know, for good reason, and the things we went through or things we, you know, needed to go through to get where we are today, and there's more things we need to go through in the future. I mean, that's all. I mean, I'm bouncing these ideas off of other ideas that I've heard of, and just trying to make sense of it all, you know. And it really comes down to our own perspective, and if we want to give room for these new ideas and thoughts to allow us to have a different perspective. Now, in the 18th verse, what I see here is, and he's eloquently putting it in almost, you know, in a riddle sort of a way, but I you know, so it makes me think, you know, in a lot of different directions. But as I step away from it, what I'm seeing is he's really in this 18th verse kind of giving us a way to separate our source from the things that we think are, you know, important in the world, and giving us a way to actually recognize when we're maybe coming from our source, or we're focused on something outside of ourselves. Because, and the reason I say that is because, like in the first part of it, when greatness in the Tao is present, actions arise from one's own heart, and you know that, you know, those are, it's an example. He's given some examples in the beginning, and then at the end he's saying, you know, here's another type of example of where you will find people who have found, who are coming from their source, and saying, when kinship falls into discourse and piety and rites of devotion arise, when a country falls into chaos, official loyalists will appear, and patriotism is born. And you know, patriotism comes from, you know, can come from within, and you know, people put their lives on the line for that type of stuff, and it's something that's coming from within. So I think he's really trying to give us examples, and maybe in the next few verses he's also going to be giving us more examples, but I don't know for sure. What do you guys think about that?
Well, clearly I get confused by this book, so I'll stay out of trying to predict that and just say I'll come to it when I come to it. But you know, over the past years, a little over a year, in my journey in my personal development and my worth growth and all that stuff, some of the most simple exercises that I actually took for granted in the beginning. Like when I was first reading the book and it said do this, I thought, oh, really? This is so elementary. Like this is so childish. This is a waste of time. And I did it, but I didn't really get it. Now that I'm kind of doing more a deeper level integration, I'm like, wow, that was profound. And one of the first things we did was literally start to learn our relationship to our environment. And it's kind of simple. And I love discussions like this, but I don't want to be so, I don't want to just be anecdotal here. Like I'd like to provide some kind of try this and see if it works for you kind of things, right? Because we understand what the problem is. And so one of the things that I did was took a list, just wrote down, set the timer, and just kept brainstorming, just whatever came to mind, things, my relationship to things in my house that held value or were overly sentimental or whatever. Because a lot of people put a lot of sentiment and a lot of value and a lot of everything into things, right? And you didn't get that until the end of the exercise. Now, probably the exercise was a little less impactful for me because, quite honestly, I don't really get into the pomp and circumstance of things per se. Pictures from childhood, or I don't even have a lot of pictures, and I don't even get down with it. Like it doesn't do anything. Or if someone, if something is lost, it doesn't devastate me because for me, it's the memory of the person or the experience that I still have. It's not the thing itself. But it might help to just do set a timer, write a list of all of those things that you value the most. And then set a timer and write a list of all of those things that that you feel that for you are talk about who you are, that describe who you are. And then sit down and write a list of things that motivate you. Like, what motivates you? Am I money motivated? Am I motivated by having the nice shoes? Am I motivated by flossing in my nice whip, my nice car? Like, what motivates me? Or am I motivated by making someone smile today? Am I motivated by buying someone a cup of coffee at the coffee shop? Like, write down those lists. And after you write down each list, go back through that list and ask the who, what, when, where, and why questions regarding each thing that you've got on that list. That will give you an understanding of A, where your source of value comes, B, where your source of motivation comes, and C, where your identification of self-worth comes. That's a great place to start.
I'm going to step in here because I have to actually drop off early. I have a class I have to be in at the top of the hour. So I just wanted to bring out the last few lines of this verse. I'll read it here. It is more important to see the simplicity, to realize one's true nature, to cast off selfishness and tempered desire. And the reason I wanted to bring this one out is because I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I get this little fantasy going on in my head that, it's like I'm only going to be facing these challenges now, or, I'm only going to have these problems right now, and when I get to this certain stage, I'm not going to. A lot of people, I live in Boulder, Colorado, so it's a pretty spiritual community, and a lot of people as far as spirituality and ascension and stuff, a lot of people have this idea that in one brief instant second they're going to be enlightened, and from then on they're never going to have any evil, and I use that word jokingly, but evil thoughts run through their mind, or they're never going to get angry again or sad again or anything because they're enlightened, right? So I wanted to bring this out because it very clearly says to cast off selfishness and temper, desire. And what that says to me is that those things are going to come, and you have to take control and cast off those thoughts. You know, it's not that those thoughts aren't going to come. The thoughts are going to come, but you have to do work like this and learn how to recognize those thoughts and cast them off. And you have to learn how to temper. You know, we're human, so we have these thoughts, we have these emotions. Thoughts just come. Have you ever noticed? It's not like you have to think about having a thought. It's just there. And then basically you have to deal with it in one way or another. So I really liked that, because it very clearly says, you know, yeah, you're still human. You're going to have these things, but you need to learn to cast them off. You need to learn to temper yourself and your emotions. And I think that's really true with entrepreneurship too. As you're talking to people or presenting your business or whatever, you know, you're going to have no's. And it's not, you know, I don't believe in like going for the no's or all that, but there's a certain amount of emotional detachment that you have to have. And I'm sure you all, this is really cliche, but I'm sure you guys have heard it. But, you know, it's like the waitress serving coffee. If she asks somebody if they want coffee and they say no, they don't like have an emotional meltdown, because she doesn't have to go in the back and start crying, oh, I don't want the coffee. You know, it's because my hair is not right, or, you know, whatever. So just try to take control over your emotions and your thoughts, and use everything as a learning experience, and think about, you know, how many times you've been presented with something and you said no, and all the different reasons. You know, we never know what's going on in somebody's life, but we almost, and there's certain personalities that do it worse, but we almost always, if somebody says no in the beginning, until you learn how to deal with it, you know, we almost always say, oh, well, it's something that I did, it's something that I didn't do, it's something that I was, it's something that I wasn't, it's something that I said, it's something that I didn't say, when in reality it's probably none of those things. It's something going on in their life, or even, you know, thoughts that they can't do it. You know, that's why it's so important to make everything as simple as possible, as duplicatable as possible. I'll hush now. Thank you, guys. I got to run to this other, I'll hang out for a few more minutes and then I'm going to run, but I really appreciated this discussion, and everybody brought out really good points, and I look forward to next week as well. Have a great week.
Thanks, Catherine. I appreciate you adding that on there. I think that's a wonderful reminder for all of us, is to just realize that, you know, it's not, that was my first thing too. And, you know, when I got involved with the industry and somebody would say no, I think there was something wrong with me. I'd made some kind of a mistake. And you're right, it doesn't have anything to do with us. It's all and what's going on in the other person's life. And I think that brings us back to the whole quit focusing so much on trying to make that sale as much as just build relationships with people, and then just keep doing what you're doing, and people will be attracted to you when they're ready to do the business that you're in, if they're even going to be ready for that, you know, because we got to remember what we went through to get to where we are, and you know what the business that we're in. How many businesses have we all tried, right? You know, and was it because there was something wrong with the person who sponsored us? No, that was all about us, right? But Christina, I wanted to excuse me. I wanted to thank you for sharing those brainstorming tips, and another thing that you brought up. Oh, and before I go on, thanks for joining us, Catherine, and I understand you got to get off, so whenever you need to do that, we'll see you next week. Oh, I think I'm losing my voice. One thing I wanted to mention on what Christina said about the sentimental stuff, you know, I thought that was an interesting point to bring up. You know, I had I've never been one to really accumulate knickknacks and keep every single little thing that my kids ever made, or little things like that. You know, but I always felt weird about not keeping those things. Like there was something wrong with me. Like I wasn't a good mom because I didn't keep every single little picture that my kids made when they were in elementary school, and I didn't, you know, keep their little booties, and I didn't make up the baby books. I know that maybe my kids are like, oh, where's the baby books? You know, but I just wasn't naturally into those kinds of things, and I kept trying, I kept like dogging myself over time because I'm like, oh, you're just not as good of a mom because you aren't doing these things, you know. And that's ridiculous, right? Because you know, my kids turn out pretty good, and you know, we have a great relationship. They love us, we love them. You know, everything's wonderful. And so, what do we measure? You know, we keep judging ourselves on these outer guidelines, when in reality, those outer guidelines really don't mean anything. It's all about, you know, what's going on within, and that's what it's about. But okay, I know my voice is being weird. So guys, wrap up for today. Share your final thoughts, and then I'll wrap up at the top of the hour.
I'll jump out real quick. Yeah, it's really great to be here, and these discussions always open my mind to new things. You know, just lastly on what you were saying is, you know, we need to you know, trust that we can just be ourselves, and you know, get things going for ourselves and motivate ourselves and be that coach that we want, you know, for ourselves. Gosh, there's you know, the answers are out there if we seek them. We just need to be open to them. And getting on masterminds like this is really, you know, the way to do it. There's so many good points on this. I'll have to go back and see the replay, and I encourage everybody to get on and add your comments, because we really appreciate it. It helps us grow when we do that. And as you pass on this information, and if you had some breakthroughs today, you know, go ahead and make a comment about those, and share this with other people, because the more people that take their time to understand this, you know, these concepts, then the easier it will be to work within the world that we want to work within, you know. So just want to say thanks again for that, and we'll have about 7 minutes, so I'll go ahead and give the mic back to you guys. Great to be here. Great to see you all. Love you.
Just really quick, something that I want to add to the little brainstorming exercise is, before you start the exercise, and this is going to be like my ending comment, it's crucial, it's imperative that you make an agreement with yourself that you're going to be doing this exercise with love for yourself, which means you have to absolutely agree that you're not going to be approaching this with a judgmental mindset towards yourself. Because if you start the exercise off with dishonoring yourself in such a way, first of all, you're not going to be totally honest in the exercise, which means you're not going to get the most out of it, because you're going to be going into the exercise judging, oh my gosh, if I put these things on the list, or if I don't put these things on the list, then that means X or Y or Z about me. Absolutely start this exercise. Before you start this exercise, you have got to make an agreement with yourself and hold accountable yourself to go into the exercise judgment free. There's no definitions of right or wrong. There's no definitions of good or bad. There's no definitions of a lot and a little. Like those ramifications, there are no, you just got to get rid of the restrictions there and just be free of yourself. Love yourself enough to make that list unapologetically and without those restrictions, because you can't grow, and you can't root out all that negative stuff until you get to the source of it. And you can't get to the source of it if you allow the lies and the fear to keep you from facing the source of it. Okay? Does that make sense?
See. Yes.
Makes sense.
Sorry? Oh, I don't know if Jason was saying something. Yeah, speaking about guidelines, Samantha, I mean, I think those have been the biggest aha moments in my life, were like little awakenings, like when I realized, like, all of a sudden out of nowhere, like, wow, I've been following this idea of what other people say something is supposed to be for this long, and then you sort of wake up and be like, but who said that's the way it's supposed to be, and why am I following this? And then there's moments where you really look within, but okay, where did this come from, and is this right, and does this resonate with me? And then you can, change and really have these little awakenings and huge aha moments that are very profound, and you can really create your life that way, in the way that resonates with you. Because we do so many things, like so many things that are been taught to us from society or parents or other people, and it just becomes normal, or a normal way. I just got reminded of a story of, I can't remember it exactly, but how, like, there was some tradition of how a family cooked the turnips, and one family cooked the turnips, like the actual turnip part, and the other family would cook the leaves, and they both had, like, that was for traditions after traditions after traditions. These families would cook it, and then they were like, they thought it was weird that the other one, I'm probably telling this story totally wrong, but in each family's way, they thought that's the only way. You only cook the turnip leaves, you don't cook the turnip. And the other family, like, that's the only way, is you cook the turnip, you don't touch the leaves at all. But then once you wake up to it, you're like, oh yeah, I can cook all of it, or whatever. So that's happened so much in our families. Like, we have these traditions that we follow, and then it's like, where did this even come from? When you think about it, like, who made this up? And it could be from generations and generations, and then you're like, okay, I'm changing this, So those are the moments when you wake up and you're like, oh, I can actually change this. So I leave with that. Good discussion, and see you all next week.
Awesome. Breakthroughs, right? Oh, you told that story perfect. That's exactly how it goes. Word for word. But yeah. And the traditions aren't always bad, but it's good to be able to figure out what traditions might be holding us back, or might, what thoughts might be holding us back that, really don't have any basis for any real truth. But
Can I
that's
give
great.
a quick example of that, though, Jason and Sandy, about the traditions, just to drive home the point, just in case the audience doesn't really get it? Do you mind? Yeah.
Yeah, there's one other story, and I'll probably tell wrong, but it's actually, I don't know who talks about it, but I think it might be Zig Ziglar or someone like that, and he talks about how the younger daughter was cooking a ham, and she cut off the ends of the ham and stick it in the pan and put it in the oven. And then the husband came over and said, "Why are you cutting off perfectly good meat and put it in the pan?" She's like, "I don't know. The way my mom does it. Ask her." So he calls his mom, and she said, "Well, that's just the way we've always done it. We cut off the ends of the hams. I think it makes it taste better," or something like that. And so he said, "But grandmother, that's the way grandmother used to do it. It makes it taste better." And that's what they were. They were convinced that by cutting off the ends of the ham, it actually made the meal taste better, and that's the way you were supposed to do it. But when he finally talked to the grandmother, he found out that the only reason she cut off the ends of the ham was because the pan that they had and the oven that they had was too small to fit the whole ham in. So they would cut off the ends so it would fit, and then just discard the rest, because it would go bad. So it was just because they couldn't, the pan was too small. But all the following generations thought that that's how you were supposed to cook the ham for some traditional reason, So hopefully maybe that might clear it up a little bit. But in the case of the turnips, you can eat and cook the whole thing, but people might be, more inclined to cook just the root or just the leaves, or maybe both if they know. But the idea is that when you expand your mind, you get a different understanding of of what can be done and why things have been done the way they've been done. So yeah, great idea. Good idea to clarify that. Thanks, Christina, and thanks for your exercise. I think that'll help a lot of people.
Awesome. Yeah, Christina, share it next week if you can. That'd be awesome because I'd love to hear your story too. All right, guys, we can wrap up for this week. I was going to read a section here in the chapter, but that's going to take us a little bit over. So I just encourage you to kind of go back in. If you've got the book, go back to page 91 and read the section where it says Observe Your Relationship to Systems of Education, Justice, and Business. And that'll really help you kind of start to recognize when you're being guided by what society or systems or whatever are trying to make you be versus trying to follow your inner self. And then go back and do that exercise that Christina was talking about. That's a great idea. Oh, excuse me. So anyway, guys, have a great, awesome, and amazing weekend. Meet us here again next week, Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern every week, 7 a.m. Pacific, at SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. That will always bring you to the most up-to-date live event page on Saturday mornings. And then you can also find our website, which is MindsetMasteryCollective.com. And then like us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter. You can find us on Google+. And with that, guys, have a great, awesome, and amazing weekend. I think I already said that, but I'm saying it again because I want you to have a great weekend. Okay, see y'all next week. Bye for now.